Hi, I'm Joe, creator of the Kinematic tool for Blender. I wanted to make a video to talk about the state of the tool. Version 2.0.5 beta is now out. It's been over a year since I did anything significant with the tool. The Palisades fire in Los Angeles ended about 4 or so miles from my home, and somewhat unrelated, I lived and camped out of my car in the eastern Sierras for almost 6 months. To say the least, it's been rather a chaotic and wild year, and I had some wonderful experiences, some strange ones, and a lot of time to think and experiment. Coming back to it all, my interests and goals are still aligned with the Kinematic tool, that is, creating sharp animations for my games and entertainment. And since people have continued to purchase the tool over the last year, it only makes sense to continue to develop it and get it into good shape and maintain it while it's useful. AI is now much more common, and I've been getting a ton of value out of it for access to information. But when I went to learn to use AI to make images and videos and stuff, I just couldn't see myself using that process for creating art. It's a little sterile and not very granular, so I realized I want to stick with sculpting and painting and animating by hand. That is the handcrafted way. Well, the digitally handcrafted way. I feel like having direct control over sculpting, painting, and animating is really the closest I can get to bringing the visions I have to life. When I have a vision in mind, I want it to come out in a way that provides the most granular control. I tried a bunch of different things, and this feels most appropriate for my needs, so there is still value in these workflows. If you only care about generalizations, AI can do a lot for you, however. I am currently exploring and studying machine learning, so there might be some cool things that come out of this experience, because I am starting to recognize the value in it. So since it's been over a year since I've really done anything significant with the tool, or even with animating and rigging, I have a lot of cobwebs to dust off. It's a frustrating feeling, but there is a silver lining to all this. Since I'm getting familiar with everything again, and since I generally understand most of it already, there's an opportunity here for me to share my journey with you and show you what I'm relearning through my own perspective, which means opportunities to talk to you about coding and Python and fundamentals of rigging and animating and just cool stuff. Because if there's anything I've discovered, it's that I tend to look at things through a kind of a unique lens, and I like to share that lens with you in the hopes that maybe it can switch some light bulbs on in your own head. So let's talk about the tool. The tool still offers a significant improvement to the experience of handcrafting animations by greatly improving the workflow around IK/FK switching and pivoting and various other little elements. A lot of important parts of a quality animation happen around the point of IK/FK switching, and without firm control of that area, you and I are likely to find ways to just brute force our way around that part of the workflow, which unfortunately tends to result in low control and quality, and that's never a good outcome. Now, as mentioned in the version 2.0.5 beta release video I just put out a few days ago, linking is still not working. When I first started developing the tool, I had almost no experience with the linking workflow, and I just didn't know that with a linked armature, you just can't dip into edit mode, which makes sense, but it wasn't even on my radar. So a few of the pose mode operators currently dip into edit mode, and I'm looking to fix that in the next version. I'm already thinking about version 3 of the tool, and there's one really big change in mind I want to make to improve the tool and access to it. So right now, if you rig your character with the Kinematic tool, the license doesn't allow you to resell the Kinematic tool with your character model and rig, and that limits a lot of things, especially for those of you who want to sell or offer rigs you've assembled with the Kinematic tool. So to solve this, I want to offer 2 simultaneous versions of the tool. The first one is just like you have it right now. You buy it and you get access to the rigging and animation features. The second version would offer the animation features only and would be completely free and allowed to be included in your products and passed around freely. This will open up a lot of doors because this means I can also offer free rigged models you can download and play with, so you can instantly recognize how absolutely freaking powerful the Kinematic tool is. And if you rig and sell characters, you can package the animation module of the Kinematic tool with your product. Also, one of the features I really want in the tool, and I don't know if it's completely possible to merge with the current systems, is pinning for elbows and knees. I want to animate things like this with confidence, where the knee holds in place while the rest of the body moves around. I saw Pierre's video on it, and I'll probably use that as a starting point. I also want to revisit trying to get a chain of any length to work. The IK to FK snapping is an angry beast, and I was lucky to get it working with just 3 bones. I might open up Blender's C++ source code and see what's going on under the hood to solve this problem. I also saw they have some deeper explanation of an IK solver on their website, so it would be a cool source of content to share with you. Frankly, working on the API layer with Python prevents a lot of control and freedom with these systems, so I'm doing what I can. Part of me thinks ultimately the way to solve the deeper problems with IKFK switching is to build a fork of the Blender source code with hard-coded changes to some of the animation and rigging systems that are frustrating me. The Kinematic tool currently just works on top of the systems that are already available. My contention is this. In my estimation, probably around 98% of the rigs created in Blender are for human, humanoid, animal, or creature models. And all of those use limb-based locomotion, which means all those benefit from the advantages of both inverse kinematics and forward kinematics for control and animating. So why isn't IKFK switching and the whole workflow much more refined and default in Blender? There's a huge amount of improvement that can be done in this area, and I have visions. Only time and effort can realize them, and while the Kinematic tool is a good current solution, there are better, more fundamental solutions. A lot of people have asked for integration between the Kinematic tool and Rigify and AutoRig Pro, so those are still on my mind. I don't want to promise anything because it was a miracle in the first place I was even able to get some of the systems to work on the Kinematic tool. And I don't know how rigid or flexible those add-ons are and how much I can do things to the rigs they create, but I'll see what I can do. This is also a really good opportunity to look at Rigify under a magnifying lens, study it, and talk about it with you. And there's some seemingly smaller stuff which I think will be a good source of content. Like I was recently building out version 2 of the Perfect IK Pull Angle add-on, and I ran into a bug based on the position of the joints relative to the XZ plane of the base bone. And so that bug is almost certainly in the Kinematic tool because they use similar code, but I haven't encountered that bug yet in the Kinematic tool. I just want a robust system, and in order to solve this problem, I need to get a lot more familiar with planes in math and play around with vectors again. So this gives me an opportunity to talk about this cool stuff with you. One final thing I've been thinking about is release schedule. Big entities like Blender work best when they're on some sort of organized release schedule, but for my case, what I would prefer is to have the Kinematic tool in absolutely tip-top shape as soon as possible so I can start to think about other things while I'm concerned only with maintaining the tool. So in an extreme case, imagine getting access to version 2.1 for linking and then a day later having access to version 3 beta. This won't happen, obviously, because development takes time, but just consider the scenario. It might seem like an inconvenience with so many updates and changes so quickly, but ultimately, in the end, it's a good thing to have access to all the benefits as soon as possible, and having a release schedule can hinder an extreme development pace if I want to just go hog wild and dump most of my energies into getting the tool into really good shape. And if I want to improve or work on something, I don't want to have to worry about frequency. I just want to go straight for it. Finally, let me know if there's anything else you want in the tool. I won't promise anything, but it certainly won't happen if you don't tell me. Please share your thoughts on this and everything else I just talked about. All right, peace.